Come on.
Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
Once again, we are on. I am the Mojo King, and I am on a solo mission. Not exactly. Mike Steph is not only here in spirit, but he's actually going to be doing some clips, everything that he usually does, although he is not sitting next to me over there. I think the reason he is not here is because he's slightly embarrassed to sit next to me after my horrendous picks from last week. He just sells me out like that. What am I going to do? Or maybe he traveled to Atlanta to see his Mets play the Braves. One or the other. I'm not sure which. But Mike Steph will be here, and he will have some insane Survivor selections. One of them is crazy, I promise. Speaking of Mike Steph, let's move on to Mike Steph's one big thing.
Since I am the ultimate team player, I wanted to do my part and make sure that I contributed this week's episode in any way that I can. And I say all that to say this. Let me give y'all Mike Steph's one big thing. Yeah. Tell you the truth, this was going to be an easy one for yours truly. Due to the awe-inspiring surgical dissection that I witnessed this past Thursday night, emanating from Jet Life Stadium. Yeah, I said it. Jet Life Stadium. Aaron Rodgers led the Jet offense to a dominant performance. That wasn't the important news, though. No. That wasn't the important news. It was the manner in which he did so. Quick precision, passing, controlling the pace and the tempo. He spread the ball to damn near every damn player on the offense. Running backs, 4 wide receivers, both tight ends. But the best part was the zone that he was in. The chip that was on his 40-year-old shoulder. The burning desire to prove all the naysayers wrong. Those who said that after the first 2 weeks, he was washed. He was a shell of his former self. He was a statue that was fragile and tentative. Well, he was moving around the pocket. He was moving around the field as a whole like it was 10 years ago. He made all those who were complicit in his premature funeral reverse course and start digging themselves out the hole in which they were now in. In order for the Jets to make a deep run this season, it has to be just the beginning. Last Thursday has to be just the beginning. A steady process that will culminate late January at the earliest. 3 games, 2 wins in 11 days. 3 down, 14 more to go. 14 more to go. In a week in which a lot of underdogs came up big. A lot of teams salvaged their seasons with clutch wins, such as the Los Angeles Rams, such as the Carolina Panthers, such as the Baltimore Ravens, and especially the New York Football Giants. They all prevented themselves from going into a 0-3 hole and pretty much rendering the playoff chances null and void. The Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings, led by Sam Darnold, former Jets quarterback, took another step in gaining credibility to match their 3-0 record. No matter who you root for, even if you place bets, parlays, fantasy, etc., this is why we love this game. This is why we do what we do. And that was my one big thing. Yeah!
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement podcast. I am Brad Winchester.
And I am Tyler McDowell Blanken. Join us every week on GI, where we talk about what happened in pop culture, our lives, and most importantly, professional wrestling.
The first game of the week is the Dallas Cowboys headed to New York to face the Giants. The Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites, and the total's projected out to be 44.5 points. That means Vegas is telling us that the Dallas Cowboys will come in and win with 24.5 points, while the Giants will score 20. Both of these teams are 1-2. As far as injury news, on Dallas's side, it is the defense. Defensive end LaMarcus Lawrence and 5th-round draft pick cornerback Kalen Carson. They were both out of practice with shoulder injuries. On the Giants side, it is also a defensive player, nickelback Drew Phillips, who did not practice with a calf injury. We'll have to check in closer to Thursday to see if any of these players are out of the lineup. Now that I've gone through the injury news, Mike Steph, tell us what you got in this game.
This Thursday night in JetLife Stadium, the Dallas Cowboys are a 4.5-point favorite at the New York Football Giants. Now, I'll start with the Cowboys. The Cowboys are coming off back-to-back games in which their D-line got their back blown out. Yeah, I said it. After allowing the Saints to run all over them and romp in Jerry's world, the Ravens came in and wore them out on the ground to a tune of 274 yards. At one point, they were down 28-6 before they quote-unquote made a furious comeback, a.k.a. garbage time, and made the score close, 28-25. The Cowboys can't run, and they can't stop the run. They've allowed 8 rushing touchdowns already in the first 3 games. And you have to wonder if this is a Mike Zimmer problem, their defensive coordinator, or have they fell off a cliff talent-wise? Now, when it comes to the Giants pulled off their best game of the early season with a 21-15 win on the road in Cleveland against those Cleveland Browns. Malik Neighbors, the number 1 draft pick of the New York Football Giants, had his coming out party with 2 touchdowns and spectacular catch after spectacular catch after spectacular catch. Daniel Jones finally looked comfortable in his best outing since 2022, and the defense got after it with 8 sacks this past Sunday. Can they take advantage of the weaker than advertised division and pull to 2-2 on the year? Dallas by 4.5. They're coming off 2 games which they got thoroughly dominated, and they're on the road. To me, this is disrespect. Put some respect on the New York Giants name. Do I think the Dallas Cowboys should be favored just on history? Okay, I can get them being favored. Favored by 4.5? Let them prove that. So, I would say the New York Giants will be plus 4.5. Dallas will not cover. And that over under of 43.5, I'll say conservatively under.
I'd like to point out one thing. Since Mike Steph's recording, the total has gone up a full point. So now we're at 44.5 points. He was at 43.5 and he was going under then. So we know he's staying under now. And I happen to agree with him. But the one thing you do have to worry about when it comes to Dallas, and particularly their defense, is that they've been getting thrashed rushing. Alvin Kamara for the Saints had 20 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Then last week, it was Derrick Henry's turn, 25 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson had 14 carries, 87 yards, and a touchdown himself. Now, the Giants don't have Derrick Henry or Alvin Kamara. Will Devin Singletary be able to duplicate or at least come close to what their output was? Who knows? I'll tell you this much. He's been averaging just about 66 yards per game. Maybe slightly more concerning as far as the ground attack, Daniel Jones has only had 67 yards rushing in these first 3 games. But remember, he's coming off a knee injury. But what I think this means is that the Giants will at least try to run the ball against Dallas because that's considered their weakness. Meanwhile, Dallas, no longer in a hole in the beginning of the game, hopefully, will be also trying to run. Dallo hasn't been terrible as far as the primary runner. So for me, that's the first and strongest pick in this game is the under. As for Dallas being the 4.5-point favorites, I definitely see where Mike Steph was going, but I'm going the opposite way. I think Dallas will win probably by about 6, just because they are the better, more talented team. Of course, when you have Malik Neighbors on your team for the Giants, you always have a fighting chance. The Giant fans probably haven't been this excited about a wide receiver since Odell Beckham hit the squad. Still, I think Dallas will come out fighting and winning by more than 4.5. All right, let's shift over to the tragedy, the epic failure that was Survivor last week. Let me first say, on a personal note, it was a disaster right from the beginning. I literally fell asleep holding my phone while trying to put the Jets into my survivor picks. And that was basically the only team that won for me. I mocked Washington against the Bengals. Washington won. I said that Cleveland was going to destroy the Giants. The Giants won easily. Because I didn't pick the Jets, I switched over to Tampa. Tampa lost. I didn't have them, but the Raiders lost. And even the 49ers lost. Ladies and gentlemen, I had a disaster week, but pretty much everybody did, because get this, an entire 80% of entries that were still in it last week were eliminated. To put this in perspective, the main event in DraftKings started out with 18,515 entries. They're now down to 809. One survivor that I am still in started out with 64,227 and is now down to 2,661. I did the math so you don't have to. That's about 4% entries still left. If I was just to randomly pick teams these 3 weeks, I would have probably had about a 12.5% chance of still having entries. So basically, I should have just let my wife make the picks and me not even think about it, and her not think about it either, because she doesn't follow football.
I don't think that you can handle this.
Hi, this is the Mojo Queen, and I'm here to replace the guys because, let's face it, they suck. Did you see what they did last week? Oh my gosh. So, this week's survival pick is Houston, Texas. You know why? Guess. Because Beyonce's from there. Hello. And that's why I'm picking Houston. Okay, what else should I tell you?
What are you doing?
Oops.
Can you get out of my chair, please?
Here's my plant. Hidden Gems Football. Bye.
Enough about last week. Let's get into this week. Let's hear what Mike Steph has to say. He has a truly insane pick. But after last week, how am I going to argue with anybody?
Do I have any survivor picks? Well, one is smacking me right in the face. And of course, being the fact that I'm wearing this Aaron Rodgers t-shirt, this shirtsy, if you will, the New York Jets host the Denver Broncos at JetLife Stadium. That line was about 8.5. Now it's come down to 7. Jets favorite -7. But regardless, the survivor, I almost forgot. Aaron Rodgers off a 10-day rest, as good as he looked this last Thursday night, and the vendetta he has against Sean Payton based off last year. Last year, he was not able to exact the revenge against Sean Payton. Guess what? We beat them anyway with Zach Wilson behind center. So if you don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be out for blood, you're sadly mistaken. So the Jets would be my number one survivor pick. And you got the 49ers over the Patriots -10. Now, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, there's been some survivor pool busters. Now, do you have faith in the 49ers? Do you have faith in the Patriots? This is going to be in San Francisco. It's going to be in the Bay. I personally would stay away from this game. It's a high probability that the Patriots could pull off the upset. I doubt it, but you don't really want to take that chance. The game that I'm looking for, besides my New York Jets, would be the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chiefs are favored by 8. The Chargers, let's put it this way. I'll put this caveat out there. If Justin Herbert can play, I would highly, highly recommend looking at the Chargers as a survivor pick. Yeah, I know, over the Chiefs. Yeah, I know. But tell you the truth, if it wasn't for his injury, they probably would have beat Pittsburgh last week. As soon as he got injured, everything went downhill. That 8-point spread, that's big. Kansas City hasn't beaten anybody by 8 all season long. So, yeah, if you don't want to stay away from survivor, I get it. But if Justin Herbert plays with Jim Harbaugh on that sideline, if you're thinking to try to bet against the spread, that 8.5, that 8-point number is kind of high. It's kind of high.
We're back for Mike Steph's selections, and I gotta say, for the most part, I really like where he was going, except for that one key one. I wouldn't pick the Chargers over Kansas City, no matter who's starting the quarterback. But again, after last week, I don't have much to say. On the contrary, though, I would say that he pointed out about Herbert starting. If Herbert's not starting, Kansas City does look like an option. But I'm with him. I do like the Jets. The Houston Texans at home against Jacksonville is looking pretty good. Jacksonville, it looks like their house is on fire and everybody's running out. But my selection this week will be the 49ers at home against the Patriots. The 49ers have looked a little shaky. The Patriots defense had looked pretty good until Aaron Rodgers carved them up last week. But I happen to think that there's just too much talent, even on the injured 49ers, for the Patriots to be able to put up much of a fight. They clearly are not being able to do much in the passing anyway. So as long as the 49ers are able to score, say, 24 or more points, I think they should safely win this game. If I was going to pick a long shot selection, I would go with one particular game, and that's the Rams heading over to Chicago to face the Bears. The Bears are 3-point favorites. At this point, why would we make the Bears favorite against anybody? Yes, Caleb Williams did throw for 363 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, but understand they had scored 3 points in the first 3 quarters. The game was basically over. They got 2 garbage touchdowns. I am not impressed. I have not been impressed with anything Williams has done so far in these first 3 games. Can you say that those last couple of drives are him turning the corner? Maybe, but more likely than not, it was just a defense that didn't care. So, although I wouldn't use it quite as survivor, I would say that one of the bets I will be making is the money line for the Rams, being able to take out the young Bears team. All right, just like we did last week, we're splitting this episode up. So expect to see part 2 coming in the next couple of days. But right now, you have Thursday night game, you have the Survivor. We're going to talk more prime time on the next episode, Sunday, Monday night games. Mike Steph, take us home.
Goodbye.
Bye.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
Will they be able to run more than usual due to the success? Due to the success.
Hi. This is the Mojo Princess. Is that Princess?
Princess? Your Max assistant?
It's Queen! Okay, now this is another sponsor from, from Garfield. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a high five before I go. Bye!